Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's the Friday before the Saturday of college football week 10. We are doing our regular call with Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com, getting his thoughts on a possible late line value on some lines that are still up. Chris Andrews, thanks for being back with us. What's the first college game from week 10 you'd like to bring up with us today?
Well, let's start right at the top. Let's go with the biggest game of the weekend, Alabama and
Okay.
LSU. Alabama, they're getting a little bit of heat for being in the top four. I think a lot of people just look at the ratings, coaches polls, that sort of thing. I still have them atop my leaderboard as far as power ratings, and I'm going to play them this week. I think when you give them a little bit of a reason for motivation, and Nick Saban's the master of that, he's going to tell all these kids, these guys don't think you belong, and they think LSU does. And I think if you look a little deeper, I think Bama has the kind of run defense that can stop Leonard Fournette. Nobody's really going to stop him, but I think
Right.
they will slow him down. And I think if you look at their quarterback, Harris, the kid has been very good. LSU, I'm talking about. Kid has been good and getting better. But when he's throwing the ball, it's always been an accessory to Fournette as far as the offense goes. And I think if Bama does slow down Fournette, which I think they will do, I think they're going to need Harris to pass the ball very effectively. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that. And that's why I think that's going to turn the tide. Listen, not much to say bad about LSU, but I just think Alabama is pretty much better in every phase of the game except running back. But of course, Bama has their own very good running back in Henry.
Yep.
I think LSU is going to have trouble stopping him. I think the day goes to Alabama, and I'm going to lay the 6.5.
All right. I'm actually seeing mostly 7, interestingly, though, right now, market wide. And Brent from BetDSI told us that the public was coming in on LSU, actually, more than you might expect. And
Yeah.
when I look at this game, I also think that Alabama has a big advantage on special teams, which could wind up playing a big role here. That might be also something that's going under a little bit, under the radar a little bit. All right. Interesting thoughts. Chris Andrews, what's the second game you'd like to discuss with us?
Well, I'm going to eat chalk again, Peter. I hate
Mm-hmm.
to do that, but I have to pick who I think's the right side. I like Clemson against Florida State, and I know
Mm-hmm.
some of the wise guys have come in the other way. But again, I look up and down this everything that I look at. Clemson does just a little bit better. They run the ball a little better. They throw the ball a little better. Conversely, their defense does those things a little bit better. And the only thing that Florida State has to their advantage is their +9 turnovers. Clemson's only +1. I think that would help Florida State in a lot of other numerical values. Really doesn't. I think when you look at some of the things that Clemson has faced over the last couple of years, Clemsoning, Dabo Sweeney has not liked that, and God only knows I wouldn't like it either. And I think this is a case where if he does get to the front, and I think he will, if he does get to the front, he will keep his foot on the pedal, and I think that they're going to try to score as many points as they can. And I think if Dabo seems like a nice guy, but you know what? When I think if he has a chance to run up the score a little bit and add a few points, I think he's going to do it. Like I said, I just think Clemson is a much better team all the way around. They're 7-1 against the spread. I think people have not quite realized exactly how good this Clemson team is. I think they show it this Saturday against Florida State. I know I'm going against the wise guys, but I'm laying 10.5 on Clemson.
Yeah, right now 10.5 and 11 are market-wide numbers. Was there sharp action that came in on Florida State? Because when I did my phone call with Brent from BetDSI, he told me that there was big public action on Florida State, and I remarked to him that over the years, when I've been doing that call with him, anytime the public comes in big on a double-digit underdog, in my experience in those calls, it's usually the favorite that winds up having a good value. And I was feeling the same sorts of things here. But have you heard that there's definitely sharp action on Florida State?
I heard there was some sharp action on the dog. Yeah, I saw a lot of 12 yesterday, went down
Yeah.
almost universally. And, usually that's a move. And I have to say, I've only talked to one bookmaker today, and he indicated he had some sharp play, but you never know, Peter. It might be just guys trying to get ahead of the number. But
Yeah.
he did have sharp action on the dog.
Well, my sense on that game is I was kind of liking the over. The public's on the over, but I was liking the over because I think Clemson's offense is very impressive, and I also think that if Clemson does have a weakness, it's giving up big passing plays, which actually fits in well with a recent strength that Florida State's developed. So I think they'll be able to score something. I'm kind of agreeing with you. I would lean Clemson here, and I do think that Florida State will be able to score some. So I'm more leaning towards the over 56. We'll see how it turns out. What's the third game you'd like to discuss with Chris Andrews?
Okay, this one I'm going against the public. I'm going to play Nebraska against Michigan State.
Okay.
This has been the biggest bet
boy.
Team of the week, Michigan State. I saw it open. I saw some openers had it 3.5. Some other ones I saw it 4.5. Anyway, this has gone nothing but up all week. I wound up taking 6.5. I saw it, and if it goes to 7, I'm going to press my bet a little bit. But one of the things, Peter, spending all my time in Reno and Las Vegas over the last 35 years, whenever the locals go against their team that's going bad, that's the time to get on. And I've had so many people contact me, Nebraska fans. One guy told me from early in the week, I'm betting my rent on Michigan State. This is a joke. So, well, I kind of was leaning that way anyway. That's all I needed to hear. But, Nebraska lost 5 games by a total of 13 points before last week. Now, last week they had the backup quarterback in, and the kid was, you usually hear it in basketball, Peter, like one of these guys who keeps both sides in the game at the same time.
Yeah.
He was that kind of a quarterback. He threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he also threw for 4 interceptions. So Purdue did beat them by 10, and I know that's certainly anything but a good loss to lose to Purdue. But now Armstrong, the regular quarterback, is back for Nebraska this week. And listen, I think even if they do lose, which they very well could, I think they cover within the 6. 6 is usually generally the number I'm seeing right now. But I think they stay within the 6. I think they give Michigan State a very, very good game. Michigan State has not been a covering machine this year. They've been very bad against the number themselves, played a little bit better in the last couple of weeks. But, of course, they needed that miracle against Michigan to win. But even though they had that game covered, but they have not been great against the number this year. I look for a very close game, and I'm going to take Nebraska plus the 6.
Yeah, that was my basically my initial thoughts on this game were everything that you just said, but I am also going to hold off just because Nebraska is one of these head case teams, and we see this in the NFL too, like the Detroit Lions, these head case teams that the numbers tell the sharps have value, and the sharps kind of tend to bet on them week after week and wind up getting burned. And I'm not saying Nebraska is as bad as the Lions in that regard right now, but they feel like that kind of team. You can make a very strong case for betting on them, especially in this kind of spot, but they're just such a head case team that I'm not sure I would personally want to risk it, although I certainly wouldn't want to argue against it either. Right now, 5.5 or 6 is the market-wide number on that one. And yeah, public's going to be all over Michigan State. Maybe they'll cash, maybe they won't. Interesting thoughts, as always. Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com. Thanks so much. Talk to you again next week for College Football Week 11.